The novel, Crossing the Countryside, has been completed. Welcome everyone to read. Chu Ning inexplicably wore it to a dynasty that did not exist in history, where men were superior and women were inferior, feudalism was backward, and the family was even poorer, unable to eat enough. Chu Ning, who deeply felt hopeless about his future, only wanted to survive and make do with it. However, fate did not meet people's wishes, and breaking down the family was not a big deal, so there was no time for purity. The jumping of each top-notch contestant were nothing more than a few clowns jumping over the beam, and she didn't even care about it. But what she couldn't bear was that the beautiful white moonlight in her heart said she wanted to take her as a concubine. Chu Ning couldn't bear it anymore. Damn it. I don't want to show off, do you treat me like a sick cat? Concubine taking. I see you want to die. Keywords of the novel. Splendid farmer girl. Reborn husband seeking hug no pop-ups, splendid farmer girl. Reborn husband seeking hug complete collection download txt, splendid farmer girl. Reborn husband seeking hug latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1, Second Sister, Wake Up, It's Time We Got Up. Second Sister, Wake Up. Oh, why are you still sleeping? Get up quickly, if you don't get up, you'll be cursing. Pandy's voice gradually rose, and Chu Ning finally had a reaction. She impatiently grabbed her hair, closed her eyes, and muttered, "Don't disturb me, let me sleep a little longer." After speaking, she flipped over and fell asleep again. Pandy was so anxious that she wanted to scratch someone. Oh my, at what time are you still asleep? Fourth sister, mother. After a long argument, Chu Ning didn't shout out, but instead woke up the two little ones. One rubbed his eyes and called out sister, while the other groaned for his mother. Cover the blanket well, don't freeze it. Pandy stepped forward and pressed the two of them into the bed, then turned around to the end of the Kong to take out the jacket pressed under the mattress. Come on, one arm, she said. Fourth sister, where's the mother? Mom went to the kitchen. Indy exclaimed, today it's our third room's turn to do housework. Pandy nodded as she stretched out her coat and said, you can play with Lai D in the house, and my second sister and I will go help my mother with the work. Upon hearing this, Indy turned her head to look at Chu Ning and said, why don't you let second sister play with sixth sister? I'll go help my mother with her work. Lai D lay obediently in the bed, purring her big, watery eyes at this one and then at that one. She said in a milky voice, I also want to help my mother with work. Pandy smiled gently and said, even our sixth child can help his mother with her work. It's great. She dressed Lady quickly, and then held her in her arms for a while to coax the little guy out of the idea of helping him. My little sister has a weak body and cannot withstand the cold wind. Otherwise, if she gets a cold wind, it will be troublesome. Milk will not spend money to buy medicine. Indy, be good and stay indoors with Lady. Don't let her go out. Okay. Pandy dug out a comb from the Kong cabinet, combed the hair of her two sisters, tidied up their blankets, and then took out a warm water pottery jar from the Kong hole and poured a bowl of water for them to drink on their own. After a busy day, she finally settled down and gave a few more detailed instructions before getting ready to work. It's already daylight outside, and if Milk finds that it's already this hour and hasn't fed pigs or chickens yet, she will definitely jump and curse again. During the leisure time, the Chu family only had 2 meals a day, but the black pig and 6 old hens they raised had to be fed 3 times. More delicate than a person. Because in the eyes of the devout woman, these livestock are all silver, much more valuable than humans, so they naturally need to be carefully fed. Ah! Second sister. Pandy glared angrily at Chu Ning. She has been busy for so long, and second sister is still sleeping. Absolutely. Do you have to provoke Milk scolding to be willing? I was probably really angry, and Pandy's tears uncontrollably streamed down her face. She casually wiped the tears on her face and her voice trembled as she spoke again. Can't you feel sorry for your mother? She's already difficult enough. Old Chen has always disliked Qin and would curse a few words if she had nothing to do. If she caught hold of him, he would go to hell. Chu Ning got annoyed by her noise and sat up, shouting loudly and interrupting her, "Shut up." Pandy's remaining words immediately got stuck in her throat, almost choking to death. Finally, she walked away with a black face in anger. Indy and Lady looked nervously at the restless Chu Ning, afraid to move. Chu Ning, I want to curse. But she hasn't been bad enough to get angry at the two little ones yet. Be good, with a wolf-like smile on his face, Chu Ning said, everyone is obedient. I'll go find something delicious for you later. Delicious. Indy became excited and not afraid anymore. She looked at Chu Ning with bright eyes and said, Second sister, are you going to dig yams in the mountains again? Upon hearing about eating, Xiaobu Jian Lai Di became excited and said, Take yam, take yam. Due to poor food, the children in their third room were all very thin, especially the 3-year-old Lai Di. The little one was as thin as a pole, with a thin body supporting a furry little head that looked like a bean sprout. Watching her nod forcefully, Chu Ning was worried that her small body wouldn't be able to withstand the weight of her head. However, the little one is quite cute. Well, much more lovely than that stinky girl who keeps chattering and arguing. Chu Ning reached out and pinched her little finger. Okay, big sister will bake yam for you to eat, but you must keep it a secret, otherwise big sister will never find you anything delicious again. Aha, Lai Di knows now. The little girl smiled sweetly at her and said, Second sister is really good. Call me big sister. Big sister. Be good. Seeing Chu Ning coaxing the little girl to call her elder sister again, Indy looked out with a hint of guilt. Fortunately, no one heard. It's really strange. Second sister is clearly the second in line, why must she be the eldest sister? If she were the elder sister, what would the elder sister of the uncle's family be called? This thought has been confusing the 5-year-old Indy child in her heart, but for some reason, looking at Chu Ning with a calm face, she didn't dare to ask. But one thing she couldn't help but say, second sister. Chu Ning looked up at her. Indy looked at her cautiously and said. Big sister, can that yam be? Cannot. Chu Ning said in a deep voice, did I forget what I said last time? Her expression was faint, and there was no emotion in her eyes. Indy's heart was furry as she looked at her. No, don't worry, big sister. I won't mention it again in the future. Well, be good. It was almost time for the appointment, and if she didn't go out again, old lady Chen would really be blocking the door and cursing. It was then that Chu Ning calmly began to dress. Indy turned her head to look at the dark window, then turned back to look at Chu Ning, who was hesitating to speak. In the end, she couldn't help but speak, second sister. Chu Ning glared fiercely at him and said, don't talk. Indy Lai Di shrank her neck and secretly went to pull her. Then Indy weakly lowered her head. As soon as he opened the door, a cold wind blew in his face, like a small knife, cutting his ears. It's really too cold. Chu Ning turned her head and was about to return to the house when Qin Shi, who was delivering hot water to her in-laws, saw her and said, Zhao Di. Hurry up. Hurry up and feed the pig. Chu Ning didn't even look at her, rolled up her sleeves and walked expressionlessly towards the kitchen. The most annoying thing is when others call her Zhao Di. It sounds terrible. Second sister, why did you come? Pan Di struggled to carry a bucket of steaming pig food, her face turning red as she held it back. The barrel itself was heavy and full, so it was heavy for UFA. She couldn't even lift it, so she could only move her hand bit by bit on the ground. I haven't even walked out of the kitchen yet, and I'm already exhausted and panting. Seeing that Chu Ning had finally arrived, Pandy breathed a sigh of relief before complaining, "Second sister is really here. It's been some time. Do you need any help? If you don't, I'll leave." Chu Ning said to leave immediately, so anxious that she shouted to her repeatedly, second sister, don't leave." Seeing that she was really anxious, Chu Ning didn't really bother to leave. She stood in place and let out a deep breath. Finally, she wasn't as irritable anymore, and then turned around and entered the kitchen again. Chu Ning picked up the barrel expressionlessly and strode towards the backyard. Pan Di quickly followed, but Chu Ning had a big step and needed to jog. After feeding the pig, Chu Ning went straight to the miscellaneous shed and dug out a basket to carry on his body. He picked up a small hoe and carried it on his shoulder, then walked out on his own. Pan Di looked at me with a puzzled expression on her face, not saying anything at all. Alas, it's better if the second sister is not at home, so as not to provoke milk anger and even cause trouble for the mother to be scolded. However, the wind in the mountains is hard, and I'm afraid she won't be able to bear it and fall ill again. She finally managed to get through the previous serious illness, so why didn't she learn a lesson and insist on entering the mountain early in the morning? Pan Di was worried, and Zhong Zhong looked up at the sky. Don't snow at all. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The coat on Chu Ning's body was a modification of Qin's old coat, which had been worn for many years. It was old and worn out, and the cotton had clumped up. Wearing it hard and uncomfortable, not to mention, it was not warm enough. Now it felt like it was about to be blown through by the wind. It's cold. If it weren't for finding someone to stutter, she wouldn't have suffered this. A roar came from his stomach, and Chu Ning irritably tugged at his hair. His movements also quickened. Entering the back mountain, she went straight to the place where she found wild yam last time. She rubbed her frozen hands and started working hard. Due to impatience, she accidentally broke a thick and straight yam and threw it aside. The next thing she dug up was small and curved, which made her want to curse. Yam is delicious, but it takes too much trouble to dig. After finally digging 2 slightly thicker yams, Chu Ning immediately threw the hoe to pick up firewood and start a fire. 2/4 of an hour later, she stood up from the ground and slowly stretched lazily, squinting her eyes. I really want to sleep. My stomach is full and my body is warm, so I feel comfortable all over. It would be even better if you had a soft and cozy big bed to sleep on. A faint and fragmented sound came to Chu Ning's ears, and his sleepy and confused eyes immediately became clear. She looked over and saw a gray rabbit grazing not far away. Chu Ning slowly crouched down with his breath, touched a sharp small stone from the ground, and threw it out with his eyes open. Whoosh, flutter. The rabbit fell into the withered yellow grass. Ha! I finally caught you. Chu Ning happily rushed over and picked up the rabbit's ear. It's pretty good, it can weigh 3 or 4 pounds. This rabbit is not considered fat. After removing its fur and bones, it is estimated that it can have at most 2 pounds of meat. She can have a delicious meal on her own, but there are also 2 little ones, Ingdi and Lady. Not enough to eat. It would be great if we could hunt another one. Chu Ning bent down and spread 2 pieces of dry grass at the bottom of the basket, put the wild rabbit in, and then she lifted the basket and looked left and right. Finally, she hung it on a thick branch before nodding in satisfaction. Taking advantage of today's good luck, we need to continue to work hard. If we can hunt another one, we can open our stomachs and eat it. Well, there's no rabbit, even a wild chicken is fine. How beautiful it would be to have a bowl of hot chicken soup in such a cold and humid weather. Thinking of this, Chu Ning became excited all over. She searched for a few sharp stones and held them in her hand, then tiptoed around searching for wild animals. Not to mention, she really discovered a colorful pheasant, but that little thing was too alert. As soon as Chu Ning's head was exposed, it flapped its wings and flew away in one fell swoop. Chu Ning became anxious and immediately chased after him, throwing stones at the same time. Unfortunately, he didn't hit it once, and in the end, he was still run away by it. Seeing the flesh in his mouth fly away, Chu Ning was unwilling and thought of trying to come up with ideas from the wild rabbit again. He couldn't waste his good luck today. After much thought, she finally decided to dig a rabbit hole. Isn't it true that rabbits live in groups one by one? Then catch a litter. Bake all the meat jerky and leave it to eat slowly. Do whatever you say. Chu Ning bent down and carefully searched for the rabbit hole. She has no experience in this area, she looks around and has no clue at all. But perhaps her luck was particularly good today, and she actually found her. Thinking that there might be a rabbit family inside, Chu Ning couldn't help but get excited. It's all meat, can you not be excited? She gently piled up the unused branches of the withered trees at the entrance of the hole in front of her, and pulled up a few pieces of dry grass to stuff inside, ready to be used to start the fire later. Upon careful observation, there was no problem. She hurriedly took off her backpack and dumped the wild rabbit and dry grass inside onto the ground, tying it to the back hole and finding a large stone to hold it down. After shaking left and right, it was confirmed that there was no problem before running to the front entrance to start a fire. She took out a fire folder and blew it on the dry weeds, and the flames instantly burst into flames, burning with a crackling sound. When the fire grew stronger, she held 2 handfuls of soil to extinguish the open flame, and then waved her collar vigorously to fan the wind. In no time, the thick smoke forced the rabbit inside out and plunged into the basket, then panicked and bumped back and forth, almost flipping the basket over. Upon hearing the commotion, Chu Ning quickly got up from the ground and ran backwards. Before he could even reach him, he pounced on the basket and firmly grabbed it. Ha! Hiss! I rushed too quickly just now and hit my chest against a stone. Chu Ning grinned in pain. Eating meat is really not easy. The wild rabbits in the basket were still rampaging, and Chu Ning dared not easily let them go. He could only be forced to waste time with them. Everyone has come in and wants to run, there's no way. But it's not a problem to remain so stiff. The wind is strong today, and I didn't have much time to blow away the thick smoke. Chu Ning was somewhat worried that after the thick smoke completely disappeared into the air, those cunning rabbits would return to their holes. She doesn't want to do useless work. After a while, when the rabbit quieted down, Chu Ning threw away the pressed stone and tried to slowly move the basket, thinking of leaving the hole. However, the ground was uneven, and a slight movement of the basket left a gap, but 2 clever little rabbits took advantage of it and escaped. Chu Ning was in a hurry, and her brain was a bit insufficient. Without even thinking, she suddenly lifted up her backpack. She moved very quickly, almost in one go, without any pause, but the rabbits didn't move slowly either. As soon as the basket left the ground, they ran out in a hurry, reducing their blink time by half. Chu Ning's hands reacted faster than his brain. He threw the basket and rushed up to catch the rabbit, causing a flurry. Finally, he managed to catch the bottom one. It's not that it's slow to react, but because it landed at the bottom of the basket and didn't have a chance to escape for a while. All those on top escaped. Chu Ning tugged hard at the ears of the rabbit, jumping and kicking wildly. He grabbed a handful of hay and wrapped it around the rabbit, muttering, "I told you to run, I told you to run." In the end, the rabbit in her hand turned into a big grass ball. "I can't run now, right?" Chu Ning sat on the ground panting heavily. She's exhausted to death. The ground was damp and cool, and the mountain wind was blowing hard on him, so it was not advisable to stay long. Chu Ning only sat for a while before getting up. Looking up at the sun in the sky, "It's getting late and we need to hurry up and tidy up the rabbits." Chu Ning extended his foot and kicked the big grass ball that was not moving on its own, thinking about how to kill it. Throw it to death. It's a bit cruel. Smash to death with a stone. It doesn't seem to be much better either. The rabbit is so cute and spicy that she can't take action. Chu Ning looked at the coat on his body with a disdainful gaze. Forget it, let's not eat this one. Let's keep it for exchange. Even though she had made a decision, she didn't procrastinate. She bent down and picked up the basket, threw the huge grass ball into it, and then pulled up some weeds to stuff it, preventing it from moving around. She couldn't just go back like this. She came out to pick firewood. If she went back empty, she wouldn't have been scolded to death by the old lady. Thinking of this, Chu Ning's original good mood instantly disappeared. With a cold face, she picked up a few dry sticks and randomly placed them in the basket. At first glance, it looked quite full, but she knew that it was impossible to make a difference. She had to endure and fold a few thicker dry branches horizontally on top, feeling that she could handle it before stopping. After tinkering for so long, she had already digested almost everything she had eaten before, and when she was craving a lot of meat, she naturally wouldn't rush home for half a dry corn cake. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Chu Ning picked up the dead rabbit and seriously considered how to turn it into a delicious dish. But previously, when she accurately hit the rabbit's head, she was very proud and felt like she was simply arrogant. However, now looking at the bloody little thing, her mood is not very beautiful. Oh, this thing is really scary, isn't it? It's both hair and blood, but how can she take action? If not, take it to the town and exchange it for money to buy meat and eat it directly. But this thing is already dead, I don't know if they will accept it or not. If we don't accept it, wouldn't it be a waste of effort? It's better to eat it now. And she's already craving meat, so she really doesn't have the patience to wait another day. So let's just eat it. To avoid being affected by this spicy food, Chu Ning closed her eyes and silently thought about N ways to eat rabbit meat. Roasting, braising, boiling, dry frying, and even cold eating suction slip. She seemed to see plates of hot and fragrant delicious dishes. Chu Ning suddenly opened his eyes and looked eagerly at the object in his hand. This is meat, how can we dislike it? Looking down at her small figure, Chu Ning thought of several skinny little girls at home. She cursed herself for being pretentious, even to the point of being too particular. As long as the meat is delicious, it doesn't matter what it looks like. With sufficient psychological construction, Chu Ning no longer found the things in her hands irritating. She hung a rope that the rabbit had rubbed with weeds on a tree, found a thin and sharp stone, and gestured up and down at it. Hey! How did the rabbit's skin get peeled, starting from the beginning or from the feet? Chu Ning frowned and thought hard. Seems, should it be starting from scratch? Anyway, let's start from scratch. Due to his hands being too dirty, Chu Ning had no choice but to stretch out his arms and rub against his body. He rolled up his sleeves a few times and suddenly felt much more agile. Okay, the work style has been set out, so let's start. Chu Ning gritted his teeth, grabbed the rabbit's ear with one hand, and then used a sharp stone to aim at the top of his head and cut it hard, 1 or 2 times. Although the stone is not suitable for hands, it can still be used. In a few moments, a long cut is made. Next, just peel off the skin on both sides and slowly tear it down. But how can we deal with this bloody mess? Chu Ning turned around. Inhale, exhale, well, she can do it now. Extend your hands and pinch the flipping flesh. Ouch. Chu Ning vomited. As soon as my hand touched the blood-stained fur, I felt discomfort in my stomach. Before I could react, I had already squatted on the ground and started vomiting profusely. No, she can't do it. This kind of thing is not something that can be forced, it's not something that can be insisted on. After calming down this force, Chu Ning endured the pressure in her heart and picked up some wild grass to wrap up the blood and flesh-flying rabbit. No way, who said she was poor? It's impossible for her to give up such a big piece of meat when she can't even eat enough. Get it? Let's take this thing back and have someone clean it up. It's just cheaper for the Chu family. She originally wanted to leave a rabbit leg for Lai Di, but now she had no hope. However, it was not good to disappoint the little girl. Helpless, Chu Ning had to pick up a hoe again to dig yam. After she had finally dug up a few thick yams and heated them up to cook, the sun in the sky was already empty. Chu Ning hurriedly descended the mountain. The gray sky was so gloomy that it could drip water, and it was uncertain that heavy snow would fall soon. She didn't want to feel the feeling of wind and snow invading. So it needs to be faster. Stinky girl, what are you looking at? From a long distance, I could hear someone shouting and making a lot of noise, as if there were quite a few people. Chu Ning didn't pay much attention until he saw the object in the hands of the chubby little man in the middle of the crowd. Perhaps her gaze was too eager, which caused the little chubby man's disgust. He cursed fiercely, "If you look again, you'll poke your eyes blind." Chu Ning turned around and left. Unable to provoke, able to avoid. Unexpectedly, because she walked too decisively, she provoked the chubby boy again and said, "Hey! You stop me. Did I let you go?" He aimed his slingshot at Chu Ning and said, "If you dare to take another step forward, I will break your leg." The servants of the Fong family stood behind the chubby little man tacitly, although they did not dissuade him, they did not shout or cheer, only silently watching silently. The world seemed to suddenly quiet down at this moment, and all of them seemed to have settled in place, motionless. It's a bit eerie. Until Chu Ning turned around, he finally broke this eerie silence. She looked at the chubby boy calmly and said, "What's the matter with Mr. Fong asking me?" "Fong Xingyu, you didn't react properly." For some reason, he felt a little guilty when faced with Chu Ning's indifferent gaze. However, when he thought of the other person's eager gaze just now, he couldn't help but feel angry. "I'm asking you. Why were you staring at me like that just now? Tell me. Are you trying to trick me?" Chu Ning, it's very speechless. Mr. Fong misunderstood. "I wasn't looking at you earlier." "Nonsense. You're clearly looking at me. That hungry wolf with a green and eerie look in his eyes. Didn't you notice that, young master? The more you think about it, the angrier you get. Tell me. Are you trying to seduce the young master?" Chu Ning, is this child's brain unclear? "No, don't misunderstand, young Master Fong. I just saw the slingshot in your hand and didn't look at you. I hate people looking at me like that the most." Fong Xingyu's eyes widened and he stared at Chu Ning without blinking. "What did you say earlier?" Chu Ning patiently said, "I said I was just looking at your slingshot." Fong Xingyu looked surprised and said, "A slingshot? Did you say you just saw a slingshot?" "Yes, I have never seen such a slingshot before, and I couldn't help but take a few more glances out of curiosity." Speaking of which, Chu Ning paused slightly and said, "I just thought that if I could have such a powerful slingshot, I could fight sparrows, rabbits, wild chickens. And eat meat every day. Well, I'm probably too eager to eat meat, so. Young Master Fong, don't think too much. I'm really not looking at you. You're not meat, no matter how big you are, you can't eat it." As if sensing her own slip of tongue, Chu Ning hurriedly stopped speaking and turned to leave. "Don't be angry, young Master Fong. I will definitely take a detour when I meet you again in the future. Oh, it's already noon, I should go back, otherwise my breasts will curse again." The speaker had already walked away, but a clear voice came from afar, clearly pouring into Fong Xingyu's ears. He originally had doubts about Chu Ning, thinking that she was fooling him. It wasn't until she said she ate meat every day that he completely believed her words, because her expression at the time was really full of longing, and he couldn't fake it at all. Fong Xingyu's gaze quickly swept over the sparrows strung together in the hands of several servants. No wonder her gaze was so eerie, it turned out she wanted to eat meat. Fong Xingyu coughed lightly to conceal the embarrassment on his face. He really misunderstood others. It's quite pitiful to say What did she say? Fang Xingyu jumped up and said, what does she mean? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Liuzi. What do you mean by that stinky girl? What does it mean to take a detour when you encounter me again and become a bandit? Fang Xingyu was furious and said, is this young master a bandit? Is that right? You say it. You say it. Am I a bandit? A few servants, look at me, I look at you, all with a hesitant expression on their faces. Just then, a little boy quietly went to poke Liuzi. Fang Xingyu said, if you have anything, just say it. What do ghosts worship? Liuzi glared at a few friends who were frowning, making eyes, then looked at Fang Xingyu's face and whispered, young master is angry because of this. Otherwise. Fang Xingyu angrily waved the slingshot in his hand and said, it's clear that she coveted my young master's things. She's staring at the prey with a hungry wolf, and her eyes have turned green. That move was almost snatched by her hand. Humph, I don't think she doesn't want to grab it, it just depends on how many people we have. What a sharp mouth that distorts black and white. With her actions, I didn't even curse the bandits and robbers, but she actually turned the tables. Hey! Speaking of Chu Ning's sharp mouth, Fang Xingyu suddenly felt something was wrong, very wrong. Did that stinky girl say something else earlier? Did you hear me? Before, he had a momentary feeling and was a bit distracted, and that stinky girl was sharp-tongued. She spoke like setting off firecrackers, so fast that he didn't even have the time to think about it. Finally, due to the phrase, take a detour when you see him again, I became so angry that I didn't think about anything else. Looking back now, he seems to have missed something. And it's not a good thing. Fang Xingyu looked puzzled and said, did she scold me? Liuzi isn't it asking him? Isn't it? 6 sons. Originally, Fang Xingyu was just skeptical, but now he is looking at a few servants who are trying to reduce their presence, and he still doesn't understand anything. The stinky girl must have scolded him. Fang Xingyu lifted his leg and kicked Liuzi, are you deaf? Where can I ask you? 6 sons want to cry without tears. If it were anything else, it wouldn't be a big deal, but that wild girl actually hinted at the young master being overweight. Isn't this a suicide? You say you can just do it yourself, why should you pull him in? 6 sons are worried. That kind of words may just be his retelling, but as long as they come out of his mouth, the young master will never let him go. What's going on? Is this going to be dumb again? Liuzi suddenly became agitated and said, I didn't hear the little one clearly either. Based on the principle of being a friend of the dead and never a poor person, he casually pulled a cushion and said, just now, the pillar stood closer to the front, he must have heard it clearly. He turned around and pulled out the pillar hidden behind him. You have the best memory, you can remember whatever others say. Come on, tell the young master if that wild girl scolded you just now. The pillar's face turned red with anger from his sudden embarrassment. He glared angrily at Liuzi before turning to Fang Xingyu. However, his gaze dared not align with his, and his eyes dripped around, me too. Fang Xingyu shouted, stop talking nonsense and speak quickly. Pillars, it's really been a disaster for 8 lifetimes. She said. Fang Xingyu stepped up and said, what did you say? Saying that the young master is not meat, no matter how big it is, it cannot be eaten. Extending the head is a blow, shrinking the head is also a blow. Left and right are dead, just forget it. The pillar stood out and said it without any concealment. Fang Xingyu widened his eyes in disbelief and said, how dare she mock this young master? As soon as he finished speaking, the next second, he jumped into a rage and said, dare to scold me for being fat. The dead girl must be tired and crooked. 6 sons and others bowed their heads and remained silent, collectively pretending to be dead. Fang Xingyu roared, "Chase me! Bring me back! This young master is going to peel off her skin." Yes. Liuzi and Zhu threw away the sparrows in their hands and chased after Fang Xingyu towards the foot of the mountain. Fang Xingyu asked as he walked, "Do you know that stinky girl? Do you know which village she is from?" The Fang family is the largest landlord in the entire Qiaodong town, and most of the nearby villagers are tenants of their family, so there is no one who does not know the master of the Fang family. Especially this Fang San Shao, who is famous for being a chubby little guy, is particularly easy to argue with. So even if Chu Ning had never seen him before, he guessed his identity at the first moment. But Fang Xingyu couldn't guess who she was. There were too many skinny girls in these 10 miles and 8 villages, dressed in rags and tatters like her. They grabbed a bunch of them, without any distinctive features. And she made herself look gray again, with her thin little face covered in patches of black and gray, making it impossible to see her appearance clearly. However, the feeling that stinky girl gives is different from that of ordinary rural women. Well, what's the difference? Chu Ning's face flashed through his mind. Fang Xingyu's eyes lit up and he knew. It's the eyes. The only characteristic of that stinky girl is in her eyes, bright and clear, clean and clear. She is very beautiful and full of vitality. That's what sets her apart. Fang Xingyu blinked. The rural women he had seen were not only dressed in gray, but also had gray faces and eyes. They were gray and lacked luster, vitality, and spirituality. This road can lead to both Dongjai village and Shizhai village. I think that woman is either from Dongjai village or Shizhai village. When we reach the foot of the mountain, let's find someone to inquire. Liuzi and others clearly felt that Fang Xingyu's anger had decreased, which was not surprising. The young master's temper came and went quickly, and they were all used to it. Chu Ning ran all the way, sweating profusely on this cold day. The sticky feeling was maddening, and coupled with the pain in her shoulders, it made her restless. She really wanted to throw away her backpack. Of course, this idea can only be an idea. Even if her mind was hot and confused, she wouldn't really throw away her backpack. In winter, there is nothing to do. Most rural people stay indoors and do not go out unless necessary, saving them energy in food waste. Therefore, during winter, the village becomes deserted and hardly sees anyone on the streets. They are all nestled at home. The Chu family is also staying at home, and those who don't do anything don't even leave the house. So Chu Ning was not worried that anyone would find any tricks in the basket, so he just put the basket in the miscellaneous shed and left it unattended. Anyway, no one will look through it. Let's leave it for now. She just wants to wash it well and feel refreshed, otherwise she will feel extremely uncomfortable. Zhao Di. Qin was cooking over the fire when he saw Chu Ning come in and asked, "How did you come back?" Oh, during the leisure time, the Chu family indeed had 2 meals a day, but it did not include the head of the Chu family, Chu Pinggui, and the old Chen family. In addition, the only scholar, Chu Dalong, also enjoyed special treatment, having 3 meals a day. So now Qin is cooking again. Hey! What are you doing? These hot water are ready to make tea for your grandfather, you can't use them. Chu Ning ignored her and turned a deaf ear to her words. He scooped hot water and poured it into a wooden basin, stirring it casually. Feeling that the hot water and cold water had completely merged, he squatted on the ground and started washing. Why are you getting bolder and bolder, girl? Seeing her ignoring her, Qin sure was a bit unhappy. You dare to use the hot water that was cooked for your grandfather, and you are not afraid of being scolded by your milk. Chu Ning turned around abruptly and said in a cold voice, "Did I pick up the firewood that was boiled with water while braving the cold wind up the mountain? What's wrong with using some hot water?" End of this chapter. Chapter 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Qin was scolded by Chu Ning, but she didn't expect her daughter to speak so aggressively. But this water is meant to be used to make tea for your grandfather. You've used a lot of it, isn't it enough? Chu Ning was almost laughed at by her anger. If it's not enough, then burn it again. As she spoke, she nodded at the water tank and said, that. There's still half a tank of water there. It's enough to boil a few pots. Qin's reaction was quite quick. You're a light-hearted child, don't you need firewood to boil water? Chu Ning gritted her teeth and said, I'll say it again, I picked up the firewood. When it comes to this, she gets angry. Although there was firewood at home, it was piled up like a small hill in the backyard, enough to last the whole winter. However, the old devout woman refused to use it, saying that good firewood could only be used for heating the Kong and wasting it on cooking. It was simply a bizarre theory. What's even more peculiar is that she ordered the three of them to go up the mountain every day to collect firewood and supply their daily needs. Chu Sholi and Qin Shi knew that the old lady was deliberately sparring, but they dared not refute and could only cowardly agree. But Chu Sholi was going to work in the town, and the Qin family also had unfinished household chores. Moreover, since Pan Di and the others were still young, the task of picking firewood fell on their eldest daughter, Xiao Zhaodi. The poor little girl has been carrying the heavy burden of life with her thin and weak shoulders since the age of 9, providing firewood for nearly 30 people. Well, there are a total of 27 people in the Chu family, consisting of 5 families and 2 elderly people, so it's not an exaggeration to say that nearly 30 people use firewood every day. And the 2 black pigs raised at home also have to eat hot food, and they eat a lot, 3 times a day, but a lot of firewood. It can be imagined that Xiao Zhaodi's tasks are multiple. The poor child eats less and does more, working tirelessly all day and enduring the scolding of the old Chen family for not having good luck. She has forced the child into severe depression. If it weren't for not being able to let go of her parents and a few younger sisters, she would have found her own shortcomings and gone with the wind. And she eventually left. Walking silently. Except for Chu Ning, who had inexplicably dressed up, no one knew that poor child had already left the world. However, at that time her brain was in chaos, so she was not clear about Xiao Zhaodi's situation. It was only later when she heard Pan Di talk about it that she came to a rough idea. It is said that on that day, Xiao Zhaodi somehow fell in the mountains, probably hitting her head. She fainted on the spot, and I don't know how long she lay on the cold ground before waking up. Her whole body was frozen stiff, and she shivered back home. That night, she had a high fever. To outsiders, she endured 3 days and nights without medication and managed to survive, but she didn't know that the person who woke up again had changed to her, a big injustice. Chu Ning felt angry just thinking about it. If it weren't for Chu Sholi and Qin's inability to stand up, Xiao Zhaodi wouldn't have wasted her life, and she wouldn't have come to this haunted place. So don't bring firewood to her. Ignite. Qin Shi was infuriated by Chu Ning's attitude and said, "What's wrong with you, child? My mother said one thing, you even have the responsibility of being a child. What? Does being your daughter deserve to suffer? You." Qin trembled with anger and said, "What are you saying?" Chu Ning suddenly stood up and snorted coldly at Qin Shi, human language. After speaking, she shook off the water droplets on her hand, took a gourd ladle, opened the lid of the pot, and scooped hot water to drink. Qin's body was injured when she was born, and she didn't sit well even after giving birth. She fell ill and her body has been feeling unwell. Old Chen didn't buy medicine for the silver, so she can only endure it and her health is getting worse. She speaks loudly and even gasps for breath. Now Chu Ning was so angry that she couldn't breathe. She patted her chest and sucked hard, and after several attempts, she finally felt better. Qin's heart was still palpitating and she didn't dare to get excited anymore, but she was still angry and refused to let Chu Ning go. "My mother didn't want to use hot water. It's not because you've been picking up fewer firewood lately, and you've been keeping a close eye on your breasts. Seeing that she couldn't even catch her breath, Chu Ning didn't want to talk to her anymore. As a result, she insisted on continuing to entangle and directly angered Chu Ning. Being your child is really unlucky. Qin was once again trembling with anger from her. What nonsense are you talking about, kid? Are you trying to anger your mother to death? Isn't it? In such a devilish weather, even men don't go into the mountains, but your child has to go up the mountain hungry to pick up firewood. He was blown by the cold wind for most of the day and almost froze to death. As a result, when you returned home, as a mother, without any care, whether she was thirsty, hungry, cold, tired or not, that coldness and energy seemed not to be your child. That's okay, anyway, I'm used to it and wouldn't dare to expect anything. But I just used a little hot water to wash my frozen hands and face, and you're not willing to. Oh, if you know, this is my own mother, but if you don't know, it's like there's some deep hatred. I insist on grinding people to death. Qin's face turned purple from being squeezed by her, whether she was angry or embarrassed. Her chest heaved violently, as if it was about to explode at any moment. Chu Ning was still waiting to speak when suddenly a sharp scolding from the old Chen family came from outside. Where did you die from, the third family? You heartless person, who wants to starve to death. It's already this hour and you still haven't brought in the food. Qin trembled his lips and responded with all his strength, that's it. The person who was originally feeling stuffy and suffocated, and was about to faint and pout, with this sound of drinking, actually became a little more energetic. Perhaps the stuffy breath had gone out, and their heavy body had gained some strength. She quickly packed up the food and hurriedly delivered it to the upper room. When passing by Chu Ning's side, he noticeably quickened his pace. Chu Ning is too lazy to care about her. After the water stains on her face naturally evaporated, her skin became tight and uncomfortable. She rubbed her face irritably, hoping to relieve this discomfort. She waited for the skin to relax before going out. Although this small face has already been cracked, it can't be broken, can it? Second sister, where's the mother? She went to the bedroom. Pan Di hurriedly ran in and said, didn't my mother start preparing lunch a long time ago? Why wait until now to deliver it? Chu Ning glanced at her and said, then you have to ask her. Pan Di is very dissatisfied with her attitude, but as a younger sister, she is not good at teaching her sister, and Chu Ning is now much more eccentric than before. Therefore, in general, if she can avoid being provoked, she should not be provoked. Bang. The dilapidated courtyard door collapsed with a dull roar, lifting up a layer of dust that almost blinded the man who strode in. Chu Shouxin. Get out of here. Pundi was startled by the noise outside and jumped up to Chu Ning's side, hesitating in a low voice. It sounds like a lot of people have come, and I don't know what they're doing. Why is it so fierce? There are indeed many people. At this moment, the courtyard of the Chu family was filled with people, at least 30 of whom were physically strong men, each with a black-faced face full of evil energy. As they stood there, they were filled with murderous intent, which was terrifying. Pan Di, who was hiding in the kitchen and secretly looking out, grabbed onto Chu Ning's arm tightly and used her strength to support her shaky body. It's so scary. Uncle Wu won't provoke a fatal accident, will he? Chu Ning frowned and shouted, let go. The stinky girl is so thin that she looks like a monkey. I didn't expect her to be so strong that I didn't even pick up a piece of meat for her. It hurts her so much. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Chu Pinggui and the old Chen family had 5 sons and 2 daughters in total, regardless of their 2 unmarried daughters. After their 5 sons got married, they gave birth to 6 grandsons and 6 granddaughters, along with their daughter-in-law, granddaughter, and great-grandson. The total number of people, old and young, was 27. It can be said that the population is thriving. Therefore, Chu Pingue holds some weight in front of several ethnic elders. The Chu family is actually small, poor, and has little foundation. They have been oppressed by the prosperous Fong family since their ancestors, and there has been no hope of turning over for many years. So Chu attached great importance to offspring. There is talent and hope, isn't there? Therefore, as Chu Pingue, who has the most children and grandchildren among his peers, he is very respected in his family for this reason. Chu Pingue had a face, and the old Chen family also had a face. Coupled with her great-grandson's achievements, she felt that her waist was hard and she was very proud. She had a nose full of pride all day long. Dalong is the future top scorer and will become a high-ranking official. As an old crown prince, she has a valuable status, not to mention the few unremarkable sister-in-law, even the Tang elder brother, who is the clan leader, cannot match her. What about the clan leader? He's just a muddy leg. In the future, there will be times when he begs his own family. Let's see how she treats him then. Tell him to hold a big head all day long, sometimes he regrets it. At that time, Qin had difficulty giving birth and was delayed. Chu Sholi was worried about something wrong and wanted to seek a doctor, but old Chen refused to pay any money. Chu Sholi had no choice but to seek help from his cousin Chu Pinglin. As Chu Pinglin, the head of the clan, cannot sit idly by when it comes to important matters related to offspring. He came to scold the old Chen family and instructed them to pay a doctor with money. Although in the end, the Qin family insisted on giving birth to the child without waiting for the doctor, and the old Chen family did not spend a penny, it did not mean that she did not hold a grudge against Chu Pinglin. Since Chu Dalong started studying, she has become the object of flattery and has been scolded so often. The old Chen family, who felt ashamed and humiliated, hated Chu Pinglin. I wish he could die. But now, the only lifesaver that old Chen could think of in a critical moment was Chu Pinglin, whom she had always hated so much. Lu Lang. Go. Hurry up and invite your grandfather. Let him call all the men in the clan and just say, someone came to the house to cause trouble. Just now, she was still taking a mouthful of millet porridge and a mouthful of tsong yubing. She tasted delicious and enjoyed herself very much. As a result, she was almost scared away by the sudden noise. When she was angry, she wanted to scold people, but the outsiders scolded first. Feeling something was wrong, she quickly leaned over to the window to see what was going on. Then I was startled. A group of black-faced evil spirits stormed the door, knowing without hesitation that they would be unlucky. When old Chen was in a hurry, his brain was a bit weak. He pushed Chu Lulang, who had been hiding in the house and had started a small stove, down his throat and shouted, "Eat, eat, eat. You know how to eat. What's the use of raising you? Hurry up. Go to your grandfather's house and call someone." 3-year-old Chu Lulang knocked on the gong with a thud, his white and tender forehead turning blue and purple, causing him to cry in pain. Wow. How what? Old Chen raised his palm and was about to hit someone, but Chu Pingue, who had been stunned for a while and finally reacted, pushed him away. Thank you for thinking of it. Let Xiao Lu go call someone, you. Chu Laowu. When I count to 3, if I don't come out again, I'll demolish your house. 1. 2. Chu Pingue's face suddenly changed, and he couldn't even care about his crying grandson and this annoying mother-in-law at the moment. Don't mess around, he said. He hurriedly got off the gong and ran out without even putting on his shoes. You guys have something to say. Okay, then return the silver. Chu Pingue hesitated and said, what silver? How much silver? The black-faced man said coldly, Chu Shoshin owed 30 taels of silver to the lucky gambling house. He promised to repay it before he agreed, but he hid. Chu Pingue's mind was buzzing, his body was trembling uncontrollably. 30 or 30 taels? Yes, 30 liang. Impossible. I don't believe it. Old Chen in the room couldn't hold his breath anymore and rushed out with a loud cry, pinching his waist and shouting, "My son is not that kind of person. He wouldn't go to places like gambling houses that eat people. Don't underestimate him." The black-faced man gave her a sideways glance and said, "The IOU was personally signed by Chu Shoshin, with black and white characters and a big red handprint. This cannot be fake. If you don't believe it, you can come to the county magistrate to clarify it. But I heard that there is a scholar in your family, so I don't know if I dare to raise this matter." Looking around for a week, he still couldn't see Chu Shoshin's person. His face darkened and he said coldly, "If you don't want face, then don't blame me for being impolite." As he spoke, he raised his right hand and lightly waved it, causing a group of black-faced people to smash and smash. In the blink of an eye, the yard was already in a mess. Chu Pinggui's eyes turned black in waves. If it weren't for his efforts to grit his teeth and hold on, he might have fallen to the ground. However, Yen Lao Chen was heartbroken and went crazy, but she didn't lose her sanity. She rushed forward to stop her, disregarding everything. She cherished herself the most and naturally wouldn't take risks with her own body. "Boss, second, fourth, you haven't come out yet. A bunch of losers. When eating, everyone is more anxious than anyone else. If something happens, everyone hides inside and pretends to be dead." Angry and like a raging landmine, Old Chen made a few moves to the door of the east wing and frantically knocked on the door. "Old Wu. You bastard, why don't you get out of here?" She slapped the door panel with a loud thud, shaking the dust away and making her cough uncontrollably, almost unable to catch her breath. Now she became even angrier and picked up a stone from the ground casually, throwing it at the door. "A despicable thing will cause trouble for the family. Why don't you die outside? What are you doing back here?" Bang! Bang! Bang dang! The door finally opened, and Old Chen rushed in like a madman. Catching Chu Shoshin hiding in the bed was like beating him up. That energy was even more ferocious than those black-faced demons outside. "I'll beat you to death, you despicable bastard." Chu Shoshin covered his head and begged for mercy. "Mom, don't hit me anymore. I won't dare to do it again in the future. I still want to live in the future. Today, you don't want to live." Old Chen angrily cursed with red eyes, 30 taels of silver. "How dare you?" Seeing her mother-in-law's actions becoming more and more aggressive, Sang couldn't help but plead, "Mother, don't fight anymore. My husband knows he's wrong, so I'll spare him this time." She had been hiding from a distance, but Old Chen hadn't noticed her yet. Now she leaned in and caught her immediately. Old Chen scolded and attacked her, "This useless thing, you can't even keep an eye on yourself. What's the use of asking you? A son who breaks it will feel heartbroken, but a daughter-in-law will be different. Even if he dies, he will not feel heartbroken. Just right to vent her anger. It's all your fault for not keeping an eye on people, that's why Lao Wu caused such a big disaster. I'll kill your useless thing today. Ah. Xianggong, help me." Chu Ning leisurely leaned against the door frame and looked out at the excitement, feeling more interesting than watching a play. Handy's face was pale and shaky. "It's too scary." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Black San raised his chin slightly in the direction of the east wing, and immediately someone rushed in and dragged out Chu Shoshin, who was trembling like a ball. "My hand is useless. Black Third Lord. I was wrong. I was wrong. I dare not lie to you anymore, don't do it." Chu Shoshin was so scared that his liver and gallbladder were torn apart. He frantically twisted his body to try to break free, but was pinned to the ground by someone. Not to mention getting free, he couldn't even lift his head and shouted at him, "I'll pay back the silver. I'll pay it now. Let me go of this situation, please. Dad, Dad. Help. Mother. Mother. Hurry up and get the silver. As long as Black Sand doesn't speak, it's useless for him to shout his throat out. Those people will do whatever they need to do. As a man pulled out a dagger and was about to pick on Chu Shoshin's wrist, Chu Pingue was frightened to the point of losing his wits. Stop it. Stop it. We'll pay back the silver. We'll pay back the silver now. The man turned to look at He San, but before he could speak, Old Chen had already shouted, "No money. We don't have money." She gave Chu Pingue a fierce glare and said, "Our family is so poor that we can hardly open the pot. There's no silver to fill the hole in this despicable thing." Mother. Chu Shoshin was trampled on by someone and couldn't look at the Old Chen family. He could only act anxiously. Mother. You can't ignore your son. Old Chen gritted his teeth and said, "Don't call me mother. I don't have a son like you." He Sanhao was too busy to watch this scene, his lips lightly hooked. Does the old lady think that giving him one hand can offset the debt? Old Chen's eyelids twitched a few times and he said, "Anyway, he wrote the IOU. You just need to ask him for the silver, it's nothing to do with us." Black Sand smiled faintly and said, "Do you mean to give up this son?" Upon hearing this, Chu Shoshin's scalp exploded and he shouted desperately, "Mom! You can't ignore me. Dad! Dad! Please, help your son. I promise never to gamble again, really, really, Dad, you must believe me. I really dare not. Dad, Dad, Dad. You're talking." Chu Pingue couldn't just watch his son have an accident. If he ran out of money, he could earn more. If his son's hands were broken, it would be really over. He said to Heisen, "Heisen, please show mercy and don't hurt my son. It's easy to say, as long as we get the silver, we'll release the person immediately," said He San happily, "we will definitely return the silver." Old Chen was both angry and anxious. "Master." Chu Pingue, unaffected by her influence, continued to say to Heisen, "I definitely need to repay it, but I don't have any money at home. Please allow Heisen to work on it and find a way to make ends meet. At most half an hour, I don't have time to waste with you." "Okay, half an hour is half an hour. It's really cold outside, so Black Third Master should wait inside." Black Sand said lightly, "No need, let's take the silver and leave." Chu Pingue nodded and said no more to him. He secretly exhaled his turbid breath, stabilized his emotions, and then twisted his stiff body slowly back. I saw Chu Shorin, Chu Shui, and Chu Shoji standing under the eaves, just like wooden stakes, without a single one coming forward. And the female relatives and a few young men in the family were all hiding in the house without showing their faces, which was all that was left. However, the middle-aged men, the Lang and Heir Lang, who were already married, did not come out to help him strengthen his popularity, which made Chu Pingue very dissatisfied. But now is not the time to worry about these things. "Boss, go and invite your uncle." Chu Shorin hesitated and said, "With such a big commotion, can we still not hear it in Uncle's ear?" "I can't say this meeting has already arrived here." Chu Pingue's eyes were heavy as he said, "If I ask you to go, you can go." Chu Shorin lowered his head. Old Chen walked over and said, "Let the second one go, he's fast-footed." Upon hearing this, Chu Shui's eyes flickered with a hint of displeasure, but his face did not show any signs. He glanced at his neighbors who were exploring outside the courtyard wall and said, "I think Big Brother is right. It's just old Wu's voice, it's hard not to disturb Uncle. If I ask you to go, you can go. There's no such nonsense." As soon as Old Chen finished shouting, a loud voice came from behind, "Old Wu, what's going on?" "Speaking of Chow Chow, Chow Chow is here." While Chu Shou's brothers are still evading responsibility, Chu Pinglin has arrived on his own. Chu Pingue's eyes lit up and he quickly strode over. "Big Brother came too late," he said. Chu Pinglin looked at Heisen and said, "Who is this?" "Lucky Gambling House, Black 3. The people from the gambling house. Chu Pinglin glanced at Chu Shoshin on the ground and said that the Black 3 methods were not effective. Surprisingly, the gambler's hands and feet were still there. Big brother. The arrival of Chu Pinglin has made Chu Pingui's heart more secure, and finally there is someone to discuss things. After learning that these people came to collect gambling debts, Chu Pinglin felt a bit regretful about this incident. He was secretly poking and poking, thinking that it was not yet possible for him to leave, and the other cousins of the same generation came together. Okay, you don't need to leave. The brothers came to help his family, and while Chu Pingui felt comforted, his old face was burning with pain. I really lost it. However, the most important thing now is to quickly send Black San away, as those who lack face can no longer afford it. Brother and a few others helped me make ends meet. When the grain is sold next year, I will pay it back. This Chu Pingui blushed with an old face and borrowed money from the big guy, while the old Chen family ran to Black San and shouted. She said that the Chu family has a large number of people, and it's not something they can provoke. If they want to leave Shizhai village safely, they will release them. Then he even used his grandson to threaten others, saying that his grandson had the talent to become a top scholar and would definitely become a high-ranking official in the future. It would be easier to deal with these thugs than to kill an ant. Those who are sensible, let go of my son quickly, otherwise. Otherwise, what? Otherwise, I'll make it difficult for you to eat and walk around. Black San smiled and said, Is that right? Then I'll take a look. What does it mean to be unable to eat and walk around? With a wave of his hand, the man who held on to Chu Shoshin's hand began to strike and cut off one of Chu Shoshin's fingers. Ah! In Chu Shoshin's mournful screams, old Chen collapsed to the ground with a thud. She saw that Heisen had not taken any action and stood there calmly, looking quite patient. She then realized that he had just been bluffing and not daring to actually use a knife before, so she made such a move. As a result, my son lost his fingers. What's going on? Black Lord, we didn't agree. In the upper room, Chu Pinglin and others have already prepared the constitution and are ready to go home to collect the silver. Chu Pingui also plans to call the old Chen family in to collect the silver, and return some black money first, so that he can't bear to harass his son. Upon hearing the screams, he was initially stunned and then became furious. You're going back and forth. Black San Yi tilted his head and dug out his ear, no wonder I am. Chu Pingui's gaze instantly fell on old Chen, what did you do? As they spoke, Chu Pinglin, Chu Shoren, and others all walked out of the upper room. De Lang, Er Lang, San Lang, Si Lang, and Wu Lang also quietly came out to look. Even the young and by families in the second and fourth rooms half opened their doors and looked outside, while the Sang family cried and ran towards Chu Shoshin. As a result, he was kicked away by someone. Chu Ning leaned out and looked out, seeing that the door of the west wing was tightly closed, he shrank back. Chu Pingui didn't care about settling accounts with the old Chen family. He just gave her a fierce glare and went to discuss with Heisen, big brother, they will go home to collect the silver now. They will return 30 taels to you later. Heisen, please don't hurt my son again. It's 50 taels, not 30 taels. What? I said 50 taels of interest with a combined capital. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. No, didn't you just say 30 taels? What I'm saying is that Chu Shoshin borrowed 30 taels of silver. Can you think that our Honyun gambling house is doing good deeds and borrowing silver without interest? Chu Pingui was struck by lightning. A debt of 30 taels was already like carrying a huge mountain of pressure for him, but for the sake of his son, he gritted his teeth and had to persevere. But now, when he was planning to cook delicious rice bran and swallow vegetables for several years, he suddenly told him that his debt had skyrocketed from 30 taels to 50 taels. 50 liang. 50 taels of silver. Even if we take his old life, we can't make it out. Chu Pinggui instinctively turned around in a daze, and his body swayed back limply. Old man. Lao Wu, are you okay? Chu Pinglin was closest to Chu Pinggui. Seeing him about to collapse, he quickly went to help. Oh my, you can't have any trouble. This big family is still counting on you. Chu Pinggui felt sad from the bottom of his heart, that scoundrel is going to destroy this family. Their family had a slightly better life than the others in the clan, but it was because they relied on more labor and rented an additional 40 acres of land compared to the big guy, in order to obtain more food. But with these grains, after paying the taxes and deducting the rent, the remaining half has not yet been harvested, and even with the production from our own 10 acres of land, it is difficult to support such a large family. So they never eat new grain, and every time they receive new grain, they send it to the town to exchange for silver, and then buy coarse and aged grains to eat. Only by living so meticulously can they have some extra money. But not much either. When the year is good, you can save a few taels of silver. But if there is a natural disaster, it is very likely that life will be a problem, let alone exchanging money. Don't be fooled by their masters carefully tending to dozens of acres of land from dawn to dusk, but after so many years, they have no ability to purchase more land. Life has always been tight. Thanks to the favorable weather in the past 2 years, I have collected a few extra buckets of grain and raised several pigs without any losses. All of them have earned money, and coupled with the fact that the third person has found a long-term job in the town with monthly wages, the family has become more relaxed. That's why he has the confidence to bear the debt of 30 taels of silver. It's also because he has some financial background that Big Brother and his team dare to borrow money. Although there aren't many in each family, there are still around 10 taels to be gathered together. He carefully calculated the famine of over 10 taels of silver. Although his head sank a bit, fortunately, Sanlang Silang was still young and not in a hurry to get married, so there was no need to spend anything. He didn't have to go out and saved it up quickly. Bite your teeth and endure for 2 years, and then you still get married. It's a pity. He had originally planned to buy 2 acres of high-quality farmland when he had saved up 20 taels of silver. Result: sigh. Forget it, I don't want to. As long as the family is neat and tidy, if the silver is gone, it will be gone. You can earn it again in the future. Chu Pinggui realized that his mind was calm enough. Even after such a big incident, he didn't collapse. He was able to calm his emotions and carefully plan his plans, which can be considered to be able to withstand the situation. But now, he has collapsed. Big Brother, he was completely defeated by the sudden increase of 20 taels of silver. Chu Pinggui burst into tears and said, "This family is going to be destroyed." Seeing him like this, Chu Pinglin couldn't bear it anymore and comforted him in a deep voice, "Old Wu, don't worry yet, be calm. Not alive. Not alive, I can't live these days anymore." Old Chen sat on the ground patting her legs and crying loudly, "You're trying to push people to death. You're not bullying people like that. Even if you have a black heart, you are not afraid that heaven will thunder and strike you." Black San said coldly, "Cure again, chop 1 finger of your son, curse 10 times, chop 2 hands. Chu Pinggui became anxious and shouted loudly, "Shut up." The curse came to a sudden halt. 30 taels of silver, 20 taels of silver interest, they are clearly robbers, said Old Chen, holding his old face in a sauce purple color. Black San sneered, "If the old lady is not satisfied, she will go to the county magistrate to report it." Old Chen was angry and resentful, making this kind of unscrupulous money. Ah! With a gesture from He San, the man who was holding on to Chu Shoshin lifted his foot and stepped on his wound. The screams of agony, which were so shocking that his scalp would explode, rang out again, echoing through the sky. Old Five, wake up." Chu Pinggui, who was already mentally exhausted and almost unable to hold on, was knocked unconscious by his son's screams, which startled Chu Pinglin and Chu Pingzhang. However, the initiator of the matter, Chu Shoshin, had no time to care about him. Mother. Please, stop cursing and get the silver. Get the silver. I know we have money at home, you can't hide it from me. Chu Shoren, Chu Shui, and Chu Shoji were about to carry Chu Pinggui into the room when they all changed their faces upon hearing the words. Even De Lang and Er Lang's faces darkened. The money in the public office belongs to a big guy, why should I repay your gambling debt? That's right, all the money borrowed by Lao Wu was created by him alone. Why should he repay it from the public? Mother, how much silver do you really have in your hands? No amount of silver can repay gambling debts. If Lao Wu has the ability to borrow, he has the ability to repay. We don't need to worry. Yes, the money was borrowed by him. We haven't seen any of them, it's nothing to do with us. When Chu Pinggui fell, the three brothers, Chu Shoren, Chu Shui, and Chu Shoji, jumped up and shouted at the old Chen family to separate Chu Shoshin. Scared sang out of control, she cried uncontrollably. Chu Shoshin was so angry that he cried out, "Did you guys do this, brother? This is trying to force me to death." Chu Pinglin frowned and said, "Don't make any noise, let's wait until your father wakes up." The brothers Chu Shoren were arguing fiercely, ignoring their unconscious father. Chu Pinggui was still carried into the house by several older brothers, including Chu Pinglin, Chu Pingzhang, and Chu Pingzhao. Chu Pinglin came out to call for a doctor, but he didn't expect them to continue arguing, which was unreasonable. The clan chief spoke, and everyone naturally had to listen obediently. Even Chu Shoji, who was shouting the most fiercely, closed his mouth and stopped speaking. However, Chu Shoren didn't want to miss the opportunity. He said to the old Chen family, "Mother, if Lao Wu makes such a fuss, it will definitely affect the Lang. If we don't separate him, the Lang's books over the years will be in vain, and he won't be able to become an official even if he has a lot of knowledge. Anyway, if there's him, without our big house, if there's us, then there's no him. Let's take care of it, Mom." Old Chen glared at his son on the ground with resentment and said in a resentful voice, "I don't want this son anymore, just pretend I've never given birth to him." Chu Shoshin roared wildly, "Grandma! Why is your heart so cruel?" Black Sand said softly, "All right, stop acting. I've seen so many of these things. Whether you're kicked out of the family or expelled from the clan, it's still the blood of the Chu family, so you have to repay the money he owes. Anyway, I don't want this son anymore. If you have the ability, you can kill him. If you want money, you don't have it. You think it's light-hearted. The gambling house's debt can't be paid off even if you die, so he just died immediately and still needs to repay the money he owes." Old Chen roared, "No money. If you don't have money, you can sell houses, land, cows, pigs, and even people. You can sell anything, and we will convert it according to the market price. Silver is the fate of the old Chen family, and the house, land, and those 2 black pigs are also her fate. How can she hand it over? It's just a person." She reached out and pointed to the crying Sang family, "Then you can take him and his wife away. At this age, it's not worth any money. Just give it 5 taels. There are still 40.5 taels left. Hurry up, I don't have much patience anymore." "What does it mean?" Old Chen blurted out and asked, "How much is that immature little girl worth?" "It depends on people." The eyebrows raised by He San's ambiguous and long meaning naturally cost more for those with good looks. Old Chen's spirit lifted, "Zhao Di. Pan Di. Come out." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. In the west ear room of the north room, Chu Wanqiu, who had been peeping through the window for a long time, couldn't help but feel anxious when she saw that things had come to this point. "Mother." She turned to look at Yang and whispered, "Can you help recruit Di? I don't want her to be sold." Yang, who was lying at the door listening to the corner of the wall, was absent-minded. "How can I help you? You want to sell people your milk, who can stop you?" Zhao Di's stinky girl has become more and more unruly as she grows older. It's not like she's been around for a long time. When she saw her, she didn't call anyone and kept a cold face all day, just like others owed her money. I really hate it. Tell her to sell such unruly things just right and avoid getting in the way. Mom, don't you have silver? You can. Upon hearing this, Yang glared angrily and said, "What nonsense. Is it easy for my mother to save some silver under your milk's nose? Why do you use it for others? Besides, the one who owes the money is that bastard Chu Shoshin. What does it have to do with us? Oh my, Zhao Di is so pitiful. Why don't you help her? We're all part of the family. If it's not a big deal, this silver will be borrowed by me, and I will definitely repay it in the future. Get out. Don't force me to beat you up." In the kitchen, Pan Di trembled with fear as she hugged her arms and wished she could hide a hole in the ground. Chu Ning rolled her eyes in silence, wondering if she had eaten a melon on her own head. She sneered, stood up straight, stretched out her coat, and said, "Let's go, milk calls us." "Second sister, you, me." Tears streamed down her face, burning Pan Di's face. Chu Ning frowned and said, "If there's anything to cry about, just sell it. Wherever you go, it's not better than this damn place. I've had enough of food and clothing." Pan Di looked at her incredulously and said, "How could you say that?" Chu Ning sneered, "Am I wrong?" After speaking, she stopped paying attention to Pan Di and walked out of the kitchen on her own, ignoring He San's scrutinizing gaze. She walked straight to Old Chen and said, "What's wrong with Nai looking for me? What's going on?" "Of course, it's selling for silver." Old Chen grabbed her arm and twisted her body, so that Heisen could see clearly. "This girl is strong and can do anything, such as washing clothes, cooking, feeding pigs, and chopping firewood." Black San scanned Chu Ning up and down and said, "This little face is well behaved and can serve people." After a pause, Old Chen quickly said, "It's not possible to lose that silver." "All right, Black Lord, I'm easy to talk to. I'll be fine for 10 taels." "No way. It's too few. Such a water-spirited yellow flower girl, how could she still get 30 taels?" Chu Ning looked at Old Chen bargaining with a flawless expression, as if it had nothing to do with her. "That's 15 taels, we can't go any further." Black San impatiently said, "Hurry up, I still have something to do with you. I don't have time to waste with you. Should I give the rest to the silver or use the house deed and land deed to offset it?" Chu Shoren coughed lightly and was about to remind Old Chen that she had already run into the kitchen like the wind and caught Pan Di. "And this, take it with you." Black San glanced up and down at Pan Di and said, 10 taels. "Hey! Isn't it that the smaller the one, the more valuable it is? Why is it still missing from her?" Old Chen Shi pinched Pan Di's chin and forced her to look up. She reached out her hand and pointed to Chu Ning. "They are not much different in size, and their sisters are similar in eyebrows and eyes. Some people believe that they are twins. A pair of sisters' flowers, it's so attractive." Chu Ning raised her eyebrows. The old lady knew quite a bit. Chu Shoren, Chu Shui, Chu Shoji, as well as Daolong and Erlang, all silently watched the two of them bargaining over each other's words. Chu Pingzhang, Chu Pingzhao, and others also stood aside and watched from the sidelines. Only Chu Shoulin couldn't bear to watch and entered the upper room, but soon he came out again and instructed Erlang to invite the doctor. Pan Di cried uncontrollably, "Milk, milk, please don't sell us." Old Chen complained about her noise and said, "Shut up." Chu Ning scanned the western room with his spare light, only to see the window tremble slightly, but the people inside did not come out. "It doesn't matter if you're disappointed. Left and right are not her either. But there was an inexplicable hint of sadness in my heart, and I don't know if it was the residual emotions of Xiao Zhao Di. After some negotiations, Black San finally agreed to the old Chen family, and Pan Di also offered a price of 15 taels. You wait, there are still 2 small ones, said old Chen's Yu with a burst of energy. She ran excitedly to the west wing to catch someone, but inside, she locked the door and said, "Second, kick the door." As Chu Shui and a bandit kicked the door open, Chu Ning narrowed her eyes slightly. Qin's heart-wrenching cries echoed from inside the room, "Mom! You can't do this, can't you?" Chu Ning dug out her ears, shrugged casually, and then in the next moment, her face changed. Xiaoduya cried. She raised her foot and was about to go save someone. Who would have thought that He San didn't mean anything, but De Lang stopped her and said, "Second sister, you can't go." Chu Ning remained expressionless and said, "Why can't I go to my own room? You have already been bought by Black Third Lord and are no longer part of the Chu family, so you cannot walk around the Chu family casually. Chu Dalong has regular facial features, is tall and long, and is dressed in a new navy blue robe, which not only exudes nobility but also maintains the elegance of a scholar. He is very charming and handsome. This is the character, TSK, TSK. Chu Ning lowered her head and glanced at the coat on her body, saying softly, "I actually want to be bought by someone, but no one has given me any silver." Chu Dalong was stunned and immediately said with an angry expression, "Second sister, don't pretend to be foolish here. You are the master of milk and sold it to Black Third Lord to offset Uncle Wu's gambling debt. Everyone has heard about it. It's not something you can easily get rid of if you want to. It's really funny. Uncle Wu owes money and doesn't sell his child to pay off the debt, but he wants to sell our 3-bedroom child. What's the point?" Chu Dalong said, "What is second sister doing? I'm just reminding you kindly, so that you don't behave recklessly and offend Black Third Lord. It's not your fault then. You're in a bad situation, you're in a hurry with me. It's really hard to repay your kindness. Besides, it's up to the master and the nurse to make decisions about the family's affairs. Do you have a girl to question, oh?" Chu Ning blinked and said, "You're all going to sell me, don't you still hold me accountable? What's wrong with it? We're all part of the same family, so what should we do? When something happens at home, of course, everyone works together to find a solution." Chu Wanxiu, who was secretly peeping, looked at this scene incredulously. When did Zhaodi, this dead girl, have such a sharp mouth? At the moment of their argument, old Chen had already grabbed Ingdi with one hand and Lady with the other. The 2 children were frightened and cried loudly, and Qin, who followed behind, also shed tears. "Mom, you can't do this, at least leave one for me. Chu Ning, he's MD. I want to hit someone." Chu Ning walked over in 3 or 2 steps, without bothering the old Chen family. She reached out and snatched her over, holding her in her arms. "Don't be afraid, big sister is here," she said. Lai Di cried until she hiccuped, big sister, woo-woo." Chu Ningmaran turned around and said, "Even though Brother Dalong has said that our family is inseparable from each other. If we have to shoulder something together, then I won't be polite." Chu Dalong didn't understand what she meant and only frowned without speaking. Just watch as she pushes her into the arms of Pan Di and strides towards her own room. Chu Dalong was inexplicably uneasy. He hurriedly chased after him and said, "What are you doing? Don't mess around, Bao Zhu is sleeping." Chu Ning turned around and smiled. It's hard to believe that the child can still fall asleep with all this commotion outside. For some reason, the little girl was smiling brightly, but Chu Dalong felt particularly glaring. Chu Ning turned around and kicked the door in one go. Bang! The door has opened. A one-time success. Chu Ning was slightly stunned. It seemed that her strength was indeed quite strong. Just now, when the second son of the Chu family kicked the door of the western wing, he kicked 4 or 5 feet. "Ah! What are you doing?" Chu Dalong's daughter.in.law, Xiao Chen, screamed in a sharp voice, Xiangong, come quickly, this dead girl has taken the silver. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Seeing Chu Ning really come out holding his own wooden savings box, Chu Dalong's angry 5 orifices were smoking, and his handsome face was twisted with anger. At this moment, he didn't have any more of a scholar's demeanor. He roared angrily, damn you! Give me back the things. As he spoke, he reached out with both hands and rushed over. That move, combined with that fierce force, clearly meant to strangle Chu Ning. Chu Ning's body flexibly avoided his attack, while Chu Dalong, due to his excessive force, although he had anticipated falling into the air, could not stop and fell to the ground with a thud. This is not bad. Chu Shoren was angry. The eldest daughter of the third family, who usually looks relatively calm, never expected to be so arrogant. Reversed. Reversed. It's really reversed. Even a girl's movie dares to bully our long room head, it's really reversed. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to beat someone up. The third one is useless. My son won't be able to give birth, and my daughter hasn't taken good care of her yet. You've been used to being disrespectful and lawless one by one. Today, I, as an uncle, will teach you how to be a good person. The fist he swung was pinched by someone, and Chu Shoren angrily turned his head. Second, what are you doing? All the things have been taken out, let's take a look and see how much private money our eldest nephew has. Don't listen to that dead girl's nonsense. De Lang doesn't have any private money. What's the big brother in a hurry about? On this side, Chu Shi held on to Chu Shoren and forbade him from interfering. The two of them started to tug at each other, and the little Chen who was chasing after him hurriedly went to help Chu Dalong. Instead, he pushed him away and asked her to quickly retrieve the things. As a result, Sang suddenly ran over and stopped her. Oh my niece and daughter.in.law, why didn't you take good care of Baozhu and come out to do something? It's chaotic outside. Don't rush into you again. You'll soon be a scholar lady, different from us rough people. She spoke with a sharp tongue, probably not knowing what she had said. Anyway, her goal was to stop Xiao Chen, and as for what she said, it didn't matter. Aunt Wu, don't stop me. The two of them also became entangled, and the old Chen's end was also pulled by Qin, who had finally mustered up the courage. They both cried and begged, causing a quarrel with the old Chen. Ingdi had been sobbing incessantly, but now she was even more afraid of being pulled by the two of them and couldn't help but scream. With her howl, Lai Di, who had finally stopped, also burst into tears. Even Pan Di couldn't calm her down, so she decided to cry along with her. Suddenly, the crying was overwhelming and deafening. Make Chu Dalong restless and agitated. The fall just now hit his knee and made a big scratch on the cold ground, causing him to almost lose his breath. However, he didn't care about these things now and was only determined to grab the things back. However, when Sang stopped Xiao Chen, he couldn't hope for anything. He had to go and catch people himself, but Chu Shoji suddenly came out and blocked his way. Fourth uncle, what are you doing? Chu Shoji raised his head and gestured for him to look. Chu Dalong followed his gaze and saw Chu Ning holding an axe high, smashing it at the copper lock on the iron box. Chu Zhaodi. Click. The copper lock has been opened. I'm going to kill you, Chu Dalong said with a grin on his face. Chu Shi, Chu Shoji, as well as the Sang family of the 5 houses, as well as the Yang family of the 2 houses who came out at an unknown time, the Wu family of the 2 houses daughter.in.law, Chu Wanqiu, and the Bai family of the 4 houses, as well as the 4 houses, 5 houses, and 6 houses, all surrounded in anger. De Fong Kong returned to his mother's house with his daughters Chu Wanting and Sanlang, but they were not there. So today, Changfang's combat effectiveness is not very good. A lot of silver. My eldest nephew actually saved so much private money. Tisk, tsk, I can't tell. The young man is so ruthless. Even though he has money, he doesn't help old Wu, just watching him and his wife sell themselves as slaves. Upon hearing the silver, even old Chen became anxious. She shook off Qin and squeezed past, only to see Chu Ning picking out a few silver ingots to give to Black San. Stop it. Old Chen roared angrily, what are you doing, you scumbag? Chu Ning deftly avoided her hand, but his face was surprised. Milk. With this silver, Uncle and Aunt Wu don't have to sell themselves as slaves. It's really great. What a mess. Old Chen scolded, when will it be your turn to make decisions about family matters? Hurry up and give me the money. Black San watched the farce with great interest, his gaze turning around Chu Ning's thin face a few times, and then he meaningfully wiped his chin and chuckled softly. I didn't expect such a family to be able to raise such interesting people. Chu Shoren shouted anxiously, Mother. Bring back Dalong's things quickly. He will be going to the capital to take the exam next New Year. How can he succeed if he doesn't have some silver in his hand? This family still relies on him to shine on their family's reputation and honor their ancestors. They cannot be disturbed by this dead girl. This kind of family support spirit, my mother should sell her quickly. Chu Shoshin cursed loudly, shut up the hell for me. You have no conscience. You have money in your hands, but you watch me suffer and want me to sell yourself as a slave. Why don't you die? You have to shut up for me. You bastard, you caused trouble yourself. Why should someone else clean up the mess? The two brothers started shouting and cursing at each other in the air. The more they cursed, the more unpleasant it became, the more unbearable it became, and it was simply hard to hear. Chu Ning was not affected by it and only wanted to quickly send Black San away, but old Chen was desperately entangled, and she had to handle it carefully, unable to escape for a moment. Pian Heisen didn't know which one was wrong. He handed him silver several times but didn't accept it. Instead, he was snatched by the old Chen family. Chu Ning is impatient. Black Third Master, don't watch the excitement anymore. Hurry up and take the silver and leave. She said in a calm tone as much as possible, this day is as gloomy as the bottom of the pot. It's hard to say when it will snow. You should go back to town earlier. Black San tilted his gaze at her and was about to speak when he heard a clear voice coming from behind him, Black San, why are you here? Black San turned back in shock and said, Fong San Shao. Fong Xingyu was surrounded by a group of servants and walked into the yard casually, oh, what's this for? Why is it so lively? This voice was clear, high-pitched, and had a strong penetrating power. It easily suppressed the noisy sounds and transmitted them clearly to everyone's ears. The Chu family was all stunned for a moment. The world is finally clean. Fong Xingyu looked at Chu Dalong and said, Zheng Yan, are you injured? Chu Dalong's mind was buzzing with melon seeds. Such a disheveled appearance was caught by Fong Xingyu. Chu Dalong forced a smile and was about to start a cold conversation with him, but suddenly his face darkened. Black San, did you cause the injury on Zheng Yan's hand? Black San hurriedly said, it's not me, I just saw Chu Tongxing injured. Fong Xingyu asked, by the way, when I asked you earlier, you haven't said it yet. It's all right, you're not staying in town. What are you doing here? Old Chen, Chu Shoren, and others looked at each other, unsure of what he meant. Are you going to stand out for the Chu family? Upon hearing this, Old Chen's eyes lit up. End of this chapter.